Oh, can you grab me a water? Is there water up there? Just in case I'm crazy. Hello, I am Pat Healy, the senior writer and editor for Berklee Online, and you are watching Berklee Online Live, the songwriter series. And each month we speak to a different songwriter, and this month is Josh Ritter. You get to ask some of the questions by using the hashtag Berklee Online Live on any of the major social media channels. And our guest, Josh Ritter, is not only a singer, songwriter, recording artist, he is also a novelist and a painter who painted the cover of his ninth studio album, Gathering, which is out on September 22nd on Pythias Records. And without further ado, let's talk to Josh. Hello, Josh.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good.
Good.
So tell me about, I should say, how are you also?
Oh, I'm super. I'm super. Really,
Great.
really.
So we mentioned the painting at the beginning of the intro, and this is the first album cover you've painted, right?
Yeah, it is. I kind of had some in the background for my last record, but then I got the
Right.
nerve to all left there.
Yeah. Describe how the evolution of that idea from it being in the background to saying, "All right, I'm gonna really put it out there."
Well, I guess it's. I think about it like the painting and how I think about it is while it's not the same as songwriting or prose, it's like I definitely believe that every piece of art or that you're creating during a period of time is a is important and fits within that period of time in the same way as music or other kinds of creative work, and for that reason it shares some of the same resonances as the songs you're writing during that time. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt that this was that the stuff that I was painting seemed to come from the same kind of well of preoccupation or inspiration as the songs, and for that reason it really seemed to fit. Mm.
Now, did you always know that songwriting would be your chief artistic expression, or when you started, were you thinking about maybe going forward with painting more, or?
No, I never. It took me less than a second to realize that songs were my life. It took me. It was like suddenly I was hearing things in the language I was meant to hear them in. It was that feeling of, oh, finally I understand something about the world. Something makes sense to me. And with every other kind of art form that I've picked up and like worked at, I've found that it has some of the kind of salutary effects are the same, but that songwriting is still my kind of my it's the stake in the ground that I kind of find my way back to.
Hmm. And I notice with the first two singles you've released from Gathering, there is an accompanying painting. And what is the synergy there as far as were you listening to those songs over and over while painting each one, or is it just this one looks to represent this this song better than the other?
Well, it was mostly an aesthetic choice. I have like a bunch of these paintings that I had done, and I didn't, I wasn't really sure if how to share them. I kind of been like sharing them a little bit on online and on Instagram and stuff like that. But I I chose some of the paintings to put on on the record and to put out with the record because they felt like the ones that seemed to resonate the most with the particular song. But really the the great thing about that stuff is that when you start to mix up art forms, there's they form their own kind of language, you know. They form their own kind of vocabulary for the person who's taking them in, you know. I find that when I'm listening to when I'm listening to a record, or I'm like looking at like a collection of photographs or something like that, that the kind of the language jumps out and makes sense to me in a way that would make sense in a totally different way to somebody else. So all I can do is really like put out the stuff that I feel captures the moment of the song the best.
Hmm. And
Hmm.
how long have you been painting?
Probably about 4 years now. 4 years.
Uh,
I took it up late.
yeah. Did you get into it as something that was? I'd imagine it would be something where, well, I don't really feel like picking up the guitar right now. I'll try this, or I guess describe what led you to pick up the
Yeah.
paintbrushes.
Well, yeah, it was a lot about that. I'd say that like when I first started painting, I was living I had moved with my family upstate New York, and we were living in this farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere. You know what I exactly thought I wanted. You know, which was my dream, living in like an old farmhouse far from everything, you know, and winter is coming. That's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And like and I got up there and exactly that happened. Winter started coming in July. And from that and I found myself indoors with and we had a 1 year old, 2 year old like age child, and we were a long way from town, and suddenly there was a lot more a lot more time to think, and sometimes that's dangerous. So when I wasn't writing, I was painting, because it really I find that it calms me down. I find that I wake up in my morning and my head is spinning, and if I don't get stuff out, it spins out of control towards the end of the day. So I get stuff done early so that I can like put a pin in it and say, listen, I maybe I didn't, I like nothing perceivable shifted in my world, but I got this thing done today that feels right, and I find that I really need that. And painting was something that came along at the exact moment I needed that feeling. Also, the great thing about doing anything, like whether it's exercise, or like doing marathons, or like whatever it should be, like that you pick up, because I like to feel that like okay, there's no way I'm going to be great at this. It's not going to be like something that I'm going to be like amazing at, but it's going to be something that that empties my mind out for a little while, and that like adds to my life and adds to the creativity of my own life and brings me into contact with new experiences. um,
Mm.
and and that's super important, I find, to writing, to the songwriting, because there are whole like stretches of time when it's not like you're not writing, but just the songs you're writing aren't any good yet. You haven't
Mm-hmm.
found out where you're. Yeah.
Now, did you take a class, or did you just pure intuitive
I guess
pursuit?
I should take a class, but I haven't yet. I've been having too much fun, and I found that like in some ways with I can't remember, I think Yasha Heifetz, the great violinist, complained that he was a prodigy, and he took lessons, and claimed that it messed him up forever. So I've always thought about
Mm.
him, but I always loved that that like with songwriting, with writing music, I was never like classically. I was trained. I was a classical violinist, but I never could learn how to read music, and I've never been able to. And I find that for those reasons, some of the maybe the discoveries that I make while I'm fiddling around on the guitar or the piano, help me. They may be simple. They may be simple realizations in a musical theory way, but for me, the sound is just leads me off into a whole new world that I personally, as still an amateur musician, and an amateur painter, well, those things kind of sparkle forth to me in a way that maybe if I understood them a little bit better, they wouldn't. They still
Right.
seem like profound mysteries. So I appreciate like I appreciate like lessons, and I believe that you can learn an incredible amount. And I love to read books about things, and but for now, I'm just having so much fun.
Hmm.
I have
Now,
no.
you mentioned kind of getting up in the morning and getting something done. And is that your approach to songwriting as well? Like when you do write a song, how long does it sit with you from the spark of inspiration to completion? Do you like to just get it all done, or do you leave it alone and come back to it?
Uh, I I don't know that any song has ever come to me exactly the same way. When it's really going good, there's a like I feel like it's just like this kind of fine gray sand that's pouring down on my head, and it's cooling, and it's calming, and I can and it's like kind of like I'm standing underneath the sand of an hourglass. That's what it feels
Mm-hmm.
like, and you know the as long as that feeling is there, like I am writing, and when it's not there, I'm done. I like there's no benefit in sitting there when it's not happening, and I only know that through such long experience, and hours and hours of wasted creative time, because there are times when when I should just be going outside. I should be doing something else. That the time isn't productive. I'm not writing anything that's good. you know and the truth is that that's just some days you can write and some days you can't, and so rather than being the type, I think, of person who gets up in the morning and writes a song. I get up in the morning and I do the things I need to do in my day, and then when a phrase or a melody jump into my head, I'll sit down and I'll write it down, but I won't try and finish it if I don't like unless it's all there. I think there's a few songs I can remember writing all at once, but in general, I find that I write best when something accrues, and I start the snowball rolling down the hill, and then after a while, it picks up its own lines and its own way of performance. And but if I sit down and put my nose to the grindstone every day, it doesn't seem to work out as well for me. And I find that I
Hmm.
care a little less about what I'm working on.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned, like, getting things from going outside into the world, and like something from the world coming in. And I think there's one of the songs on the new album. It's called, which one is it? Strangers, where it's like,
Yeah,
I can't believe we were ever strangers. And, you're also known for the line that the beginning of Kathleen, where it's like, all the girls, what is it? All the girls are stars, and you're the Northern Lights.
yeah,
Like
that's right.
those
Yeah.
those feel like the kind of lines that I guess where do they come from? Are they something that you've heard, overheard, or that you've said to your significant other, or I guess how do those things find a home?
I those there's like some lines which are kind of the seed of the pearl of the song. Some lines are important, and they're important especially because they are the ones that jump into your head. All the other girls here are stars. You're the Northern Lights. That's like a line that man, I wish I'd thought to use that. On a girl. It never occurred to me, and so when it jumps into your head, there's a reason why it's there, and something like I can't believe that we were ever strangers just feels like um, a solid foundation to build a song on. Like I find that oftentimes that the things that make uh, a song less powerful is that it's more complicated, and a song that starts off, and that's why like some of these old country songs are classics because they start off with a thesis statement, uh let's like I saw the light, like the Hank Williams song. It's like it's a super simple thesis. He saw the light. He's had this conversion. He was a bad guy, but now he's good, and he's like changing his ways. It's like it doesn't need to get complicated. It's just that one line, and then you kind of take that one line that you've been delivered somehow, this that's made its way into your mind, and then you kind of unwrap it like an envelope. You just open it up, and the whole song is inside that line.
Hmm.
So I never like really pick up stuff from like I love that kind of tradition and the tradition I've heard of like Harlan Howard and all these like country writers who like sitting in the bar and you hear somebody down the line saying like, well, whatever it should be, and like my dog left me, my girlfriend left me, my everything, and turn that into a song. But for me, I find that it's best that if I'm sitting or doing stuff in my day, the words kind of just jump into my head. You know,
Hmm.
song called "Temptation of Adam." You know, if this was a Cold War, we could keep each other warm. It kind of came into my head as this funny and not very successful kind of pickup line. And I
Yeah. So
thought,
you've never used these as pickup lines ever?
I hope they work for somebody.
That's great. So we're about at the halfway point, and we have a little segment we call "Stuck in the Middle," where you
Yes.
talk to me about a song that is incomplete and why you have left it alone and what you're struggling with.
Sure. Wow. I've got I've got lots of songs which are incomplete and either they're not, and I'd say the majority of songs are incomplete. And mostly those are because they're just not very good. The kind of they've been for whatever reason they haven't felt as if they have the thing. Like I picture a song as being the kind of you're if this makes sense, in a dark landscape, and you have a fire and you need to go somewhere else, and you have to carry that fire to somewhere else. You have to like carry a burning brand to the next place where you're going to start your fire. And so each song is you're carrying a little bit of that original fire with you. And the songs that don't have it, the songs where that fire goes out, they're just not right. They're just not there. They're just not made right. There's no sense in keeping them. That being said, that there are some ideas which despite every like try to get them to cram them into something, they'll never like fit. And those ones are ones that they're just waiting around to become the really good stuff. Those like so I
Hmm.
have a song now which I'm working on, which I've had the couple phrases in my head for maybe 4 years, and there's just there's no song for them yet, and when I
Give
pick up the
give
guitar,
give give us one of the phrases.
oh, if I did, then I would like then give it all away. But like they have to be like there's a spot for them, and maybe there's a spot for them in my own stuff, or maybe if I'm co-writing with somebody else, it'll end up there. But maybe in 20 years I'll have it, And but in my
Hmm.
mind they're always just kind of hanging out there. But yeah, that's like it's a perilous place for a song to be because most likely it'll get rejected and not used for anything. But on occasion, there's like there's something there that just can't be like let go of.
Mm, that's interesting. All right, so we have some questions here that have been coming in from people online. Let's see. Here's a good one from Charlotte Daniels. What is better, general lyrics that a lot of people can relate to, or specific lyrics that are more poetic and interesting?
I think that's a good question. That's a line you got to walk on your own. I'd say that really the idea that we can write for other people is sort of a it's kind of a rabbit hole. All you can really do is write for yourself. There's nothing, you know there's all kinds of ways that you can uh, that you can structure a song and write what it's about and all these things that will bring people in. But unless you're like singing something that really truly entertains you, then no one else is going to care. Like
Mm.
that songs should be songs the songs should be as obtuse or as open ended as you feel they need to be. I personally feel that you should be able to say things clearly on a song, like whatever it should be, whether it's just I love you, or like I love you, but but it's not going to work out, or the people that are running our country are 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 driving me crazy. It
I
should
was
be.
wondering what adjective you were going to come up with.
There's all kinds of stuff you could think of there, but but yeah, like write for yourself, because nobody else is gonna like. You're the only audience that really matters, and people really want to hear what you have to say.
Hmm.
Not what you think they're gonna want to hear. There's enough of that stuff.
Right. Now, along
There's,
those same lines where you said to be obtuse or to disclose information, this is a question from Wendy Kozak Wilkes. Is the curse in the song "The Curse" that the mummy has to watch people he loves die, or is the curse that he sucks the life force out of them?
that's a good question, and like one that I've like thought about because the curse is a story about uh, an archaeologist who finds a mummy who and this mummy is like kind of comes back to life, and the two of them kind of have these adventures. Meanwhile, the archaeologist the whole time is sort of wasting away as the mummy gets stronger, and I thought about that as a way of like talking about how there can be these imbalances in relationships, and the mummy's curse felt like a really fun way to talk about that. I personally think that the mummy is like a willing participant in this like life draining uh, exercise, but it could be that the mummy doesn't. It's not the mummy's fault. Like
Mm-hmm.
I like though that the little malicious side of me thinks that the mummy knows. You know,
Right. Right.
the
The,
mean part of me.
right. Here's one from Stephen Kellogg. Have you ever
Hey,
played with Stephen Kellogg? You know Stephen Kellogg, right?
yeah, we have a great time.
That's great. So he says, Josh, when you write, how do you decide what parts of yourself to let through and what to hold back in terms of overt personal beliefs?
Well, these days that's like, and I mean, I know that Steven like has his own ways of doing that, which I think are really cool and awesome. Like, and for me, I feel that's a line you walk really, uh, tenderly. Like, but and is always being renegotiated. But really, I find that writing comes from not a a moment of like thinking about something, as opposed to a moment of being obsessed with it, with the idea. And when you have things that you really care about and things that you're like that matter to you, they are what make you. And like, and to write as if those things don't exist is to efface yourself, and then you're not really like, you're not really an artist anymore. You're just creating, you know blanks. Like, you gotta, in the end, you've got to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, big songs can be about little things, and little songs can be about big things, and there but like but really, in the end, the only thing that really comes out is that you have to put a foot forward and talk about stuff. And I think these days, especially, that's becoming not necessarily more important, but more evident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you
As
think is the most personal thing you've ever written and recorded?
that's interesting. Well, like, the Beast in Its Tracks was a record all about, which was, I personally don't write a lot of autobiography, but that was an autobiographical record about getting a divorce, and
Right.
that was something that I work, I spent a lot of time trying to get right and trying to say exactly what I meant, um, kind of as bravely as I could, so that like it would, if I felt like if I said that right, if I described my feelings right, then it would be that's the only way that the whole experience would be redeemable, and hopefully if I described it right, that it would also be relatable to other people. I'd say that there are songs like "When Will I Be Changed" and "Dreams" on this record, which are very personal, and which are but you can't. Writing a song is like going to a party. It's like it's you want to show up when it's happening, and you don't want to be the last one to leave. You kind of want to have like as much as like you're describing, you have to be able uh, to go in and paint a portrait of the thing, and then go, then leave. You can tackle big issues in more than one song. But like I find that a lot of times they can get very complicated, and like I let my beliefs out in my music, but I try and keep them in. I try and keep them describable. You know.
Right. Here's something we touched upon a little bit before, but this gentleman, Dave Polis, makes a really good point. How do you know when a song is done? And he mentions listening to some of the home recordings from the Sermon on the Rocks album with his son, and just a line like, Jesus, what is it? Jesus hates those high school dances, changing it to Jesus hates your high school dances. Like,
Yeah.
I guess describe that kind of completion, the tweaking and the completion.
Oh yeah, that is like one of the most fun parts for me is that I think it's like a rock tumbler. You put the rocks in and they tumble and tumble and you think they're done and you take them out. This is what I did when I was with my grandfather when I was little, and you put these rocks in there for a couple months, and these rocks spin around in this kind of a barrel, and they polish, and really at the very end there's these last little bits that of a song that need to get polished, and they can be just syllables. They can be just like Jesus hates your high school dances felt more immediate and more real and more coming through the speakers than Jesus hates those high school dances, because but we know that Jeff Sessions hates them more than anybody else, so we're
Right. Here's one from Mimi Kitch. Mimi Kitch. What do you value most in a creative piece of work? Is it the meaning behind it, the cohesiveness of the piece, or does it depend on what the work is?
I admire, and this is something that has taken me time to like come to, but I would say that when as we all are when we're confronted with a new piece of work, like art artistically, whatever type of work it should be, like I feel like the way to approach it is to approach it with like and meet it on the spirit that it was offered in. And it oftentimes I find that the thing that sets great art aside from the rest is its bravery, and its vulnerability. The that are, you have to really put it out there. You have to like it may not be like what you thought it was going to be, and it may not be what other people would call perfect or even good. But if you're putting it out there as then you're being brave, and bravery I think is actually pretty easy to see when you're looking at a piece of art or listening to it or reading it. So I'd say bravery. Being brave is with your work is like is really hard but really good, and I find that it's made my life appreciating other people's art um, richer because it makes it easier. I can say, "Wow, that is a brave piece of writing you did." I
Mm-hmm.
can. I don't understand it yet. I don't get it yet. It may be take me time, but it's clear that what came out was done with intention and heart.
And what do you think the bravest thing you've written is?
Um, hmm. I think to put out, I mean, this is not a hedge. I would say that I would say to put out anything on a record and release anything is like when you get to the point that that's what you want to like, you want people to hear. That's that there's been a lot of work that's gone up to that point and a lot of decisions about what is good of your stuff and what isn't. What and sometimes that stuff. So I think, for instance, there's a song like this song "Dreams" on my new record was one where it didn't make a lot of sense to me at the beginning, and it didn't fit what I was thinking of in terms of the rest of the record, and it wasn't like a something that made complete sense to me, but it made me, but I realized that there's something there, and I had to like follow it, and and I had to share it. That's that's what I think, you know, braver. But I'd say that when it comes to like standing on stage and delivering those songs, that you have to be very comfortable with your vulnerability there. You're saying something that like, it can be easily dismissed. People, you can be playing your song, and people can be walking out of the theater, going to the bathroom, buying a beer, getting in an argument with each other, like who knows what, easily ignoring you. You've just got to be able to go out and deliver the thing that you believe, absolutely with conviction. And I think that's how you approach, writing songs too. Does that make
Very
sense?
good. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, yeah, definitely. I guess we got one more question, and this is coming from Matt Wheeler. So we go from the bravest question, the bravest thing you've written, to the worst thing you've written. He asks,
Oh
"What would
man.
you say is the worst song that you've written? What lessons have you learned from working through the subpar songs to get to the really good stuff?"
Well, yeah, like that's. Oh man, and I think that's a really good question because and I've never been more embarrassed than I have been sitting by myself in my own room, going back over something that I thought was really good. Like, a flash of inspiration, and then I'd sit up writing feverishly. This is how it's done. This is how it's all gonna. This is it. This song is like one of the ones. This is a monster. I've been waiting for it. And then in the morning, you come back to it, and you just think, what compelled me, like to think that this was good, and that happens to such a degree that it's like it just becomes background noise. The primary the default setting for writing is failure to get what you want. And I think that like, but as Jay-Z says, it isn't a loss, it's a lesson. So,
Mm,
there's always something in those things that those things that you work on that don't work out, that will lead you somewhere. Oftentimes I think about these failures as the moment when you're pulling together the granite. You're cutting you're cutting the block of granite. You got this huge piece of rock, and all those like songs that never went anywhere, all those things. That's just part of the stuff you're chipping away until you get to the real songs. And the real songs are in there. There may be 10 of them in 100 songs, but they're the statue you're trying to get to. So failure is like is in terms of writing, might as well even call it failure. It's something else. It's like it's just it's just the road you're walking until you find the things you're looking for.
great. That's a great way to end it. Um, Thank you so much for your time, Josh. And
Thanks a lot. This was fun. I could sit here all day. This is great.
yeah, all right. Well, let's do it all day then.
All right.
Marathon, 24 hours. But
Everybody,
thanks.
yeah. Thank you
Well,
so
thanks
much for
again.
having me, for like putting in all these questions. I was thrilled to be asked.
Yes, thank you, listeners, and thank you to Asha and Lou over at Saxon Company. Thank you to our staff here at Berklee Online: Josh Chagani, Jesse Barkowski, Kaylee Kravitz, Tim Scholl, Nora Terrell, Debbie Cavalier, Mike King, Emily McInerney, everybody, Josh Ritter, and you. our listeners and viewers. Thank you very much.